welcome back. Very good morning to one and all. Hope you are all fine and doing well. Yes, the last class we have dealt with the factors that can influence the resistance of a conductor. In the last class, we have completely focused on the conceptual reasoning analysis in what way different factors can influence the resistance of a conductor, especially the nature of the material, the length of the conductor, the cross-sectional area of the conductor, and the temperature of the conductor. These are all the different factors that can influence the resistance of a conductor. But of course, I hope you do remember, while dealing with one of the factors that can influence the resistance, all the other parameters should remain same. This, for example, here, first of all, we have dealt with nature of the material. Different materials can have different values of resistance. So if you are going to compare the resistance of aluminum and the resistance of copper wires, while comparing the resistances, in what way the nature can differentiate the resistance, then in such case both these wires are of same length, they should be of the same cross-sectional area, and they should be at the same temperature conditions. Then only you can discuss about the influence of nature of the material over the resistance. At the same time, the second point we have learned, the resistance of a conductor will be directly proportional to its length, provided those conductors will have same cross-sectional area, should be at same temperature, and they should be of same material. Here, greater the length of the conductor, greater the resistance. Less the length of the conductor, less the resistance. Provided the two conductors are of the same material, having the same cross-sectional area, and they should be at same temperature. Then if you compare their resistances with length, then the mathematical equation is R1 by R2 equal to L1 by L2. Still, if you have any doubt, you can refer the earlier class. But there is a conceptual point we have covered. Greater the length of the conductor, possibility for more number of collisions while electrons are traveling through the conductor during current flow. So, usually, more the length of the conductor, more the resistance. And the next point we have dealt, the resistance of a conductor will be inversely proportional to its cross-sectional area. The reason it is greater the cross-section, less the number of collisions. I have told you the best example. You are passing through a door. The door is of some cross-sectional area. Then some 100 people are traveling through the cross-section. There is a possibility for collisions among them. But if you have increased the cross-sectional area and same number of people are traveling through the door, then the number of collisions will be reduced. In that way, greater the cross-sectional area, lesser the resistance, because number of collisions will be reduced. But while dealing with that, they are of different cross-sectional area, there is no doubt. But they should be of the same length, should be of the same material, and should be at the same temperature. So when you are comparing the resistances of two conductors having different cross-sectional area of the same material, same length, and at same temperature, then the resistance of a conductor will be inversely proportional to its cross-sectional area. So that your mathematical equation is R1 by R2 equal to A2 by A1. Of course, we have dealt in the last class, but it's my part to recollect a few things for your convenience. Here, they are of different lengths. In the first case, they are of different lengths. Of course, same cross-sectional area and same material and should be at same temperature. Here, different cross-sectional area of same material but same length. Hope you can understand very well. But in the case of cylindrical conductors, usually a conducting wire will be having circular cross section in a microscopic view. A conducting wire, if you have seen in a microscopic view, the circular cross section will be seen with the conducting wire. Then in that case, if R is the radius of cross section, then area of cross section is given by formula pi r square. If you apply this formula to the above equation, then capital R1 by capital R2, ratio of their resistances will be equal to R2 square by R1 square, where small r indicates radius of cross section. This is what you need to learn. Yes, once look at the board. So we have learned till now factors affecting the resistance of a conductor. Of course, all these conclusions were also familiar as laws of resistance. Apart from that, here as R directly proportional to L and R is inversely proportional to A. On combining these two equations, we can write R is directly proportional to L into 1 by A. On removing this proportionality, we have to write equal to. So R equal to some proportionality constant into L by A, where this proportionality constant is named as specific resistance of the conductor. Specific resistance of the conductor, and is also known as resistivity of the material. Resistivity of the material, listen properly, resistivity of the material. It means it is the property of a material again. It is not the property of a wire, or it is not the property of a body. It is the property of a material. It means that different materials are going to have different rho values. Rho for specific resistance or resistivity. So from this I can write R equal to rho into L by A, where L is the length of the conductor, A is the cross-sectional area of the conductor, rho is the specific resistance of the material of the conductor, R is the resistance. So R equal to rho into L by A. Apart from that, now rho equal to R into A by L, which is the formula for resistivity. Specific resistance, rho equal to R into A by L. Yes, you can define any physical quantity using its formula. Now in this formula, rho equal to R into A by L, let me take length of the conductor is 1 unit and its cross-sectional area is also 1 unit. Then you can write rho is equal to R itself. This is a simple logic. Means specific resistance of a material is the resistance of the conductor of length 1 unit and cross-sectional area 1 meter square. In the word itself there is a specific resistance, nothing but resistance, but it's a specific, means under some terms and conditions. What are those? The resistance of a conductor whose length is 1 meter and whose cross-sectional area is 1 meter square. Or you can say like this, the resistance of a conductor per unit length per unit cross-sectional area is defined as specific resistance. For example, you have a conductor whose length is 20 centimeters and whose cross-sectional area is some 3 millimeters square, having some resistance 5 ohm. Just for example, there is a conductor whose length is 20 centimeter and whose cross-sectional area is 3 millimeters square, has a resistance of 5 ohm. It means its length nothing but 20 by 100 meters and its a cross-sectional area 3 millimeters square. It means 3 into 10 power minus 3 meters whole square. Can be written as 9 into 10 power minus 6 meters square. Very important of mathematical conversions. Millimeter means 10 power minus 3 meters. Sorry, here 3 millimeters square. So there is no square for 3. So 3 millimeters square. So it is 3 into 10 power minus 6 meters. Then you can calculate the resistance of the particular conductor if its length is 1 meter and if its cross-sectional area is 1 meter square. This is the resistance of the conductor whose length is 20 by 100 meters and 3 into 10 power minus 6 meters square cross-sectional area. But if you apply the formula R into A by L, you will get the resistance of the particular conductor per unit length and per unit cross-sectional area. That is called specific resistance of the conductor. And coming to its SI unit, the SI unit of resistance is ohm meter, OHM ohm meter. Of course, you can write like this, ohm meter, you can write. The reason it is rho equal to R into A by L. R resistance ohm, cross-sectional area meter square, length meters. 1 meter will get cancelled, ohm meter will be left. So SI unit of resistivity is ohm meter. That's one more point. Apart from all these things, when you have this mathematical equation rho equal to R into A by L, little more, you know R is equal to V by I, which is equal to 2Lm by N E square A tau. Have you observed? I am going to use this equation in lot of cases. R equal to V by I, which is 2Lm by N E square A into tau into A by 1. Now here A gets cancelled, L gets cancelled. So it is 2M by N E square tau. This is rho value. From this you can understand the specific resistance of a material do not depend on the cross-sectional area of the conductor, do not depend on the length of the conductor, but it depends on tau, relaxation time, and also number of free electrons per unit volume. That's why I told you rho is the characteristic property of a material, but it is not the property of a body. That means, like earlier, you take 20 centimeter copper wire, you take 2 centimeter copper wire, you take 2 millimeter copper wire, it will have same rho value. Remember that. So from this mathematical equation, I can write rho depends on 1 by N into tau. N for number of electrons per unit volume, which will be different for different materials. But there is another specific term which is tau, relaxation time, which can be influenced with temperature, which is very important to identify. N is the number of free electrons per unit volume that depends on the nature of material. That's why different materials can have different values of rho. But tau is the relaxation time that can be influenced with temperature conditions. Because as the temperature of conductor increases, relaxation time will decrease, so that the specific resistance will increase. So the ultimate conclusion is the specific resistance depends on the nature of the material. Different materials can have different values of resistivity. But of course, for a particular material like a copper or like a silver, take a particular material, its resistivity can be influenced with the temperature conditions. Greater the temperature, lesser the relaxation time, so greater the specific resistance. This is how there will be a little more analysis on the concept of specific resistance or resistivity. Apart from this, you have learnt already the reciprocal of resistance is known as conductance. Do you remember? Where its unit is ohm inverse can be termed as mho. Do you remember? It is conductance, reciprocal of the resistance. Similarly, the reciprocal of resistivity is known as conductivity, capital K. It is capital K, which is conductivity. There it is resistivity and here it is conductivity or specific conductance. Similar to reciprocal of resistance is conductance, reciprocal of resistivity is conductivity with units. Here it is ohm meter. SI unit of resistivity is ohm meter. Then SI unit of conductivity is ohm meter inverse because reciprocal. Ohm inverse can be written as mho. Meter inverse can be written by meter. So the SI unit of conductivity it is mho per meter. A little interesting concepts of applications which involves with factors affecting the resistance of a conductor will lead to define another physical quantity which is specific resistance or resistivity of a material, which varies for different materials and which also depends on the temperature for a particular material. It's not compulsory that copper has always the same low value, because if it's a temperature changes, relaxation time can be affected. So specific resistance can be influenced for a particular material according to the temperature conditions. So this is all about specific resistance and resistivity. So what we have learned in this particular class, we have revised the last class. What are the factors affecting the resistance of a conductor? And the further mathematical explanation is continued in this class. Apart from that, we have introduced another physical quantity called specific resistance or resistivity. At the same time, conductance and conductivity. Welcome back. Very good morning to one and all. Yes, you all know that we are dealing with the concepts of current electricity. During the last classes, we have dealt with the concept of electric current, Ohm's law, electrical resistance, and the factors that can influence the resistance of a conductor. And meanwhile, while dealing with these concepts, we have come across the functioning of a cell or a battery. In what way a cell can maintain a constant potential difference across its terminals. You know, a cell is a device that can maintain a constant potential difference across its terminals on converting chemical energy to electrical energy. And during that time, we have come across another word, EMF, electromotive force. Is nothing but the word. Don't start with the force. As it is electromotive force, don't start with force. Don't use that. Electromotive force is the work. For what the work is done, you have learned. The ions are flowing within the electrolyte of the cell. The ions are moving from one terminal to another terminal. You know, while dealing with the functioning of a cell, within the electrolyte, there will be both positively charged ions and negatively charged ions within the electrolyte. There will be a combination of positively charged ions and negatively charged ions. You know very well, because of the chemical force, all the positively charged ions will be moving to one terminal and all the negatively charged ions will be moving to another terminal due to chemical reactions or the chemical force that is pulling all the positive ions to one side and all the negative ions to the other side. So that one is positively charged terminal, the other is negatively charged terminal, and there will be some potential difference that develops across the terminals of the cell. You have learned this. But you know very well, as long as the ions are depositing on the plates, after some time, they experience a sufficient electrostatic force of repulsion that keeps them in equilibrium. As long as the ions are depositing on the plates, as the concentration of ions are increasing on the plates, so that there will be electric force of repulsion that keeps the further ions in the electrolyte to maintain equilibrium. So due to that equilibrium condition, a constant potential difference will be maintained. But you know very well, when this cell or battery is connected across the terminals of a conductor, this is all you have learnt, of course. It's just a small recollection to you to get into my concept. So the terminals of the cell are connected across the terminals of a conductor. Then what happens, you know very well, an electron will be given by this conductor to the positively charged terminal. Then the equilibrium of ions gets disturbed because when electron added to positive plate, then electrostatic force of repulsion will decrease. Then this ion will try to move to this side. Hope you got clarity. But this negative ion will be moving to this. But because of excess concentration, again an electron will be given to the conductor. Of course, ultimately your conductor will be neutral because whatever the electron it is donating here, it will gain back here. So in that way there will be continuous flow of electrons which causes current through the conductor. This is all you have learned. But during this concept, when electron is given to this positive plate and the equilibrium has been disturbed, then positively charged ion moving towards the positive plate. Regarding this we are discussing. There is some amount of work done by this cell or battery to keep these ions moving between the two plates. Positive ion moving here from negative plate to positive plate. That's why work is done. If you are telling the positive ion moving towards negative plate, no work is to be done. Because they are unlike charges, they can attract. Electrostatic force of attraction will pull it. But the positively charged ion moving towards the positive plate and the negatively charged ion moving towards the negative plate because of the chemical force. This energy will be provided because of chemical reactions that are taking place within the cell. So, a cell is utilizing its chemical energy to do the work to carry the positively charged ion from negative terminal to positive terminal. Of course, you can say to carry the negative ion from positive terminal to negative terminal. Of course. But anyway, our conventional charge is positive charge. So we talk about a unit positive charge. So here EMF is the amount of work done. If you want, you can write the definition. Electromotive force, EMF, is the amount of work done by the cell to carry a unit positive charge from one terminal of the cell to the other terminal of the cell. Of course, one means negative terminal, the other means positive terminal, obviously. This is what you need to understand. So, my conclusion it is about electromotive force, the amount of work done by the cell to carry unit positive charge from negative terminal of the cell to the positive terminal of the cell is nothing but electromotive force. This electromotive force is nothing but the potential difference across the terminals of the cell. Because you have learned the basic definition of potential difference is the amount of work done per unit positive charge. Do you remember? The basic definition of potential difference is the amount of work done per unit positive charge. That's the reason why the electromotive force is the amount of work done to carry unit positive charge from one terminal to another terminal of the cell. Means the amount of work done per unit positive charge to carry from one point to another point. Nothing but potential difference between these 2 points only. It means the EMF of a cell is nothing but the potential difference across the terminals of the cell or the voltage of a cell. Provided if there is no further resistance offered by the electrolyte. If there is no further resistance, there are no obstacles for the ions to flow through the electrolyte. When you are expecting no objections for the ions to flow through the electrolyte, then the amount of work done per unit positive charge, which is potential difference, equal to EMF of a cell. You may get one doubt. Sir, again, why you have kept this condition? What is meant by opposition for the ions flow? Yes, coming to the point. You know very well, when the positively charged ions moving towards the positive plate, they experience an electrostatic force of repulsion. And at the same time, there will be more number of ions that are present in the electrolyte. It is not about 1 or 2 ions. So there may be collisions among the ions while they are flowing from one terminal to another terminal. So in that way, the electrolyte, you know what is meant to be electrolyte? The electrolyte in between the terminals of the cell may offer some resistance for the flow of ions from one terminal to another terminal. Then in that case, some amount of energy will be consumed to overcome that resistance, to overcome that objection offered by the electrolyte. Then in that case, the EMF of a cell will not be equal to the potential difference of a cell. They are not equal. In such case, potential difference across the terminals will be less than EMF. The reason it is, the potential difference across the terminals of the cell will be less than EMF because some work is consumed, I mean some energy is consumed to overcome the resistance offered by the electrolyte for the ions flow. So my point, my conclusion is electromotive force is the amount of work done per unit positive charge to move it from one terminal of the cell to another terminal of the cell. This EMF of a cell will be equal to the potential difference across the terminals of the cell. When no resistance offered by the electrolyte, when no resistance offered by the electrolyte, but the electrolyte may offer some resistance. The electrolyte may offer some resistance due to the huge number of ions within the electrolyte, because of collisions among themselves, due to electrostatic force of repulsions. The electrolyte may offer some resistance. Then in that case, when resistance offered by electrolyte, in that case, the potential difference will be less than the EMF. Of course, EMF notation used to see small letters. Just for some time, for the convenience, I have given to you as capital letters. Usually, you will find in the books as EMF in small letters. Electromotive force. Anyway, this is the point. So my conclusion is all about what is the difference between EMF and potential difference, and the next, is there any resistance offered by the electrolyte? You know very well, usually resistance is the characteristic property of a conductor that offers some objection for the electron flow through it. But you know very well, whatever the work done to keep the current through the conductor is done by the cell or battery only. That only will initiate, the cell or battery will initiate the continuous flow of electrons to cause current through the conductor on maintaining some potential difference. But still, these ions will find some obstacles, will find some objection offered by the electrolyte while moving through the electrolyte. While moving within the cell, the ions may find some objections. We do define it as internal resistance of a cell. Which is represented by small r. Usually resistance of a conductor represented by capital R, but internal resistance of a cell represented by small r. And EMF will be represented by the letter capital E. Don't ask me that, sir, capital E is field intensity. Yes, in electrostatics it represents field intensity, but in current electricity it represents EMF, electromotive force. Potential difference or voltage will be represented by V. So hope you got clarity on the definitions of EMF, potential difference and internal resistance. The resistance offered by the cell or battery for the flow of ions through the electrolyte is defined as internal resistance. So very important point what we need to understand. The potential difference across the terminals of a cell will be equal to the EMF, the amount of work done per unit positive charge to move it between the two terminals of the cell or battery is EMF, which is equal to the potential difference between the two terminals of the cell when no internal resistance offered by the electrolyte. But if the cell has some internal resistance that is offered by the electrolyte, then some work will be done to overcome that internal resistance, so that some energy will be consumed. Obviously some work is done, so that ultimately the potential difference across the terminals will be less than EMF. This is what you need to understand. And usually till now whatever we have taken the cells, they are of zero internal resistance. We call them as ideal cell. An ideal cell, you have learned ideal ammeter which offers zero resistance, ideal voltmeter which offers infinite resistance. Similarly, an ideal cell that offers zero resistance. Then in that case usually we write like this: a cell whose EMF is E with internal resistance 0, then this E will be equal to V. The electromotive force is equal to potential difference across the terminals of the cell. But when the cell is offering some internal resistance, we do represent in this way capital E comma small r within open brackets. It means a cell of EMF E has some internal resistance, offering some internal resistance for the ions flow through the electrolyte between the two plates, between the two terminals of the cell. Then in that case, the potential difference across the terminals of the cell will be less than EMF. Of course, EMF and potential difference will have the same units, like acceleration due to gravity. Acceleration due to gravity, nothing but acceleration only, but acceleration caused by gravitational force. Similarly, EMF or potential difference carries the same meaning. Amount of work done to carry unit positive charge from one point to another point. But here in this case, out of E, some potential will be dropped. IR potential will be dropped. If I is the current drawn from the cell, then because of internal resistance R, IR potential will drop, then finally V is left. I give more clarity on this point, you have to wait. You wait. So ultimately the potential difference across the terminals of the cell will be less than EMF. I give more clarity on this, you wait. So this is all introduction to the concept of SL, EMF and internal resistance, of course connecting with the potential difference or voltage of a cell. To be clear, this is the topic that we are going to discuss. Just before entering into the concept of combination of resistors and equivalent resistors, there is a small point left to deal with this, which is a very important concept in the competitive track that you need to understand. So once you go through it, I give little more clarity on the mathematical analysis of EMF, internal resistance and potential difference. Connecting with all these things, we discuss a little more mathematics once you go through it. But earlier to that, you please try to note down whatever the internal resistance offered by the cell. Please try to note down on listening to me. The internal resistance that is offered by the cell depends on the distance between the two plates. You know, the resistance of a conductor will be depending on the length of the conductor, because as they need to travel greater distance, there is a possibility for more number of collisions. It can offer more resistance. Similarly, here the internal resistance offered by the electrolyte will change according to the distance between the plates. Greater the distance between the plates, there is a possibility for offering greater resistance. And at the same time, it depends on nature of the electrolyte. What electrolyte? What electrolyte you have taken? Different electrolytes can offer different resistances. Like resistance of a conductor depends on nature of the material. Similarly, internal resistance offered by SL depends on nature of the electrolyte and at the same time concentration of the electrolyte. Because if it is a strong electrolyte, it can ionize more. So there is a possibility for more number of collisions. Weak electrolyte will ionize to less extent, so there is a possibility for less number of collisions among the ions. And at the same time, area of the plates. The cell is going to have two plates, one is positive plate and another one negative plate. So surface area of the plates, just like as cross-sectional area is more, resistance will be less. Similarly, as the surface area of the plates are more, less number of collisions, less internal resistance. So I conclude, the internal resistance offered by the electrolyte or the internal resistance of a cell depends on, first point, nature of the electrolyte, second point, concentration of the electrolyte, third point, distance between the two plates of a cell, and the fourth point is surface area of the plates of the cell. These are the 4 points that can influence an internal resistance that is offered by a cell, and moreover it is represented by the letter small. Fine. Hope you have got clarity, and let me go with a little more mathematics connecting with all these terms. Please note down.